Deep within an ancient jungle, nestled amongst towering ferns and prehistoric cycads, lay Boomatheyam. The village, a haven of thatched huts and crackling fire pits, pulsed with the rhythm of life. Its inhabitants, weathered by the elements and bound by tradition, lived in fragile harmony with the giants that roamed the earth. They hunted with spears tipped with sharpened obsidian, gathered fruits bursting with exotic flavors, and painted their stories on the rough walls of their cave dwellings. Boomatheyam, though a sanctuary, was not immune to the dangers lurking beyond its borders. The earth in its restless slumber shifted. The once abundant hunting grounds dwindled, replaced by parched earth and the echoing silence of absent prey. The village elders, their faces etched with worry, lines as intricate as the cave paintings, knew a difficult decision had to be made. They had to move, to venture beyond the familiar comfort of their ancestral home and seek a new haven. The first light of dawn spilled over the rugged peaks, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and rose. The air, cool and heavy with the scent of damp earth and blooming orchids, carried the sound of awakening life. For Dasa, Maya, and Dole, it signaled the start of their perilous journey into the unknown. Dasa, his face etched with a mixture of apprehension and resolve, checked the straps of his woven carrier, ensuring his precious cargo was secure. His firstborn, a boy with eyes as bright as obsidian, gurgled happily, his tiny hand reaching out to touch the intricate tattoos that adorned his father's arm. Maya, her own burden no less lighter, adjusted the sling that held their sleeping daughter, her heart heavy with the weight of their uncertain future. She met Dasa's gaze, a silent exchange of love and unspoken fear passing between them. With a final lingering glance at the familiar shapes of their village, Dasa turned his back on the only home he had ever known. He took a deep breath, drawing strength from the crisp morning air and the unwavering loyalty he saw reflected in Dole's amber eyes. The mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex, her scales shimmering like polished jade in the soft light, stood ready to protect her adopted family. She sensed their anxiety, her low rumble, reassuring presence in the stillness of the pre-dawn light. The jungle welcomed them with an embrace that was both alluring and intimidating. Towering ferns, their fronds dripping with dew, brushed against their skin, their passage leaving a fleeting trail in the otherwise pristine undergrowth. The air grew thick with the scent of damp earth, decaying vegetation, and the sweet perfume of exotic orchids that clung to the gnarled branches of ancient trees. The sunlight, filtered through the dense canopy, painted a mosaic of light and shadow on the forest floor, creating an ever-shifting landscape that played tricks on the eye. Dole, her massive head held high, scanned their surroundings with a primal awareness. Her keen senses were attuned to every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, alert for any sign of danger that might lurk in the emerald depths. She moved with surprising agility for her size, her powerful legs navigating the uneven terrain with ease. The ground trembled slightly with each step, a testament to her raw power and a silent warning to any creature foolish enough to challenge her. Maya, her senses heightened by a mother's instinct, kept a watchful eye on their surroundings. She pointed out the brightly colored birds that flitted through the foliage, their calls a vibrant counterpoint to the deeper symphony of the jungle. She showed the children the delicate spider webs spun across their path, each one a marvel of intricate design, and warned them of the stinging insects that buzzed lazily amongst the flowers. Despite the ever-present danger, there was a sense of wonder in her voice, a recognition of the raw beauty that surrounded them. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows that danced and swayed with the movement of the leaves, the forest seemed to come alive with whispers. The wind, rustling through the canopy, carried the sound of distant creatures, the trumpeting of mastodons, the screech of unseen birds, and the low rumble of what could only be a large predator moving through the undergrowth. Each sound, though unfamiliar and potentially dangerous, held a strange allure, a reminder of the wild beauty that existed beyond the familiar boundaries of their former home. Dasa, his hand resting reassuringly on the hilt of his bone-handled knife, listened intently to the forest's symphony. He knew that each sound, each rustle of leaves, could herald either opportunity or danger. He scanned their surroundings, his eyes searching for any sign of game, for edible plants, for any indication that other humans might have passed this way before them. The jungle, though teeming with life, was also a place of constant competition, a delicate balance between predator and prey, where only the strong and adaptable survived. The weight of their responsibility pressed down on him, a tangible burden that settled heavily on his shoulders. He was no longer just a hunter, a provider for his family. He was their leader, their protector, the one responsible for guiding them through this treacherous new world. The knowledge filled him with a mixture of pride and trepidation, but he knew there was no turning back. They had taken the first steps on this perilous journey, and he would see it through to the end, no matter the cost. The sun, a fiery orb sinking below the horizon, cast long, dancing shadows through the dense jungle. The air, once thick with the scent of blooming orchids and damp earth, grew cooler, carrying a hint of moisture and the musk of unseen predators. For Dasa and his family, it signaled the approach of night, a time when the jungle transformed, revealing a different face, both beautiful and terrifying. Dole, her massive form a reassuring silhouette against the fading light, had led them steadily throughout the day, her keen senses alert for any sign of danger. She had steered them clear of a watering hole where a group of raptors, their feathers ruffled and claws extended, had feasted on the carcass of a fallen hadrosaur. She had sensed the tremor of the earth that heralded the approach of a herd of triceratops, their horns lowered as they thundered through the undergrowth, and had guided them to safety behind a thicket of giant ferns. With each passing hour, the jungle soundscape shifted. The daytime symphony of bird calls and rustling leaves gave way to the nocturnal chorus of crickets, the croaking of unseen amphibians, and the distant hoots of owls. These were sounds that Dasa, a seasoned hunter, recognized, sounds that spoke of the natural order of things, of predator and prey, of life and death played out beneath a canopy of stars. As darkness descended, they stumbled upon a clearing, a beacon of moonlight in the heart of the jungle. A lake, its surface as smooth as polished obsidian, shimmered in the silvery light. Reeds, their stalks swaying gently in the breeze, whispered secrets to the night, their rustling a soothing counterpoint to the symphony of the jungle. For Dasa and Maya, weary from their long journey, it seemed like a sanctuary, a place to rest and replenish their dwindling supplies. Dole, her senses still on high alert, lumbered towards the water's edge, her massive head lowered as she drank deeply. The children, their earlier excitement tempered by exhaustion, clung to their mother's side, their eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. They had never been so far from the familiar embrace of their village, had never experienced the raw power of the jungle at night. Dasa, ever resourceful, gathered dry branches and kindling. His skilled hands coaxed small fire into life. The flames licking at the darkness cast flickering shadows that danced across the surrounding trees, creating the illusion of movement where there was none. The scent of wood smoke, both comforting and familiar, drifted on the night air, a fragile barrier against the unseen dangers that lurked in the darkness. Maya, her heart heavy with unspoken fears, soothed the children, her soft lullaby a balm against the encroaching darkness. She had never doubted Dasa's strength, his ability to protect their family, but the jungle, with its unseen dangers and constant reminders of their vulnerability, gnawed at her resolve. She found herself clinging to the familiar rituals of motherhood, the act of comforting your children, a way of warding off the fear that threatened to consume her. As a fire crackled and hissed, a low rumble echoed through the trees, a sound so deep, so primal, that it seemed to vibrate in the very marrow of their bones. Dole, her head snapping up, let out an answering roar, a sound that shook the ground beneath their feet and sent a shower of sparks spiraling up from the fire. Dasa, his hand instinctively reaching for his spear, felt a shiver run down his spine. He had heard that sound before, had felt the tremor of the earth beneath the weight of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but never this close, never when his family's safety rested on his shoulders. The undergrowth rustled, and a second Tyrannosaurus Rex, its scales gleaming like polished obsidian in the moonlight, emerged from the trees. It was a male, larger than Dole, its head adorned with a crown of bony plates, its jaws lined with teeth the size of Dasa's forearm. For a moment, the two titans stood facing each other, their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills. Then, with a graceful movement that belied their size, they began to circle each other, their tails thrashing, their low rumbles, a prelude to a dance as old as time itself. Dasa, his heart pounding in his chest, watched in awe as the two dinosaurs moved with a primal grace, their dance a mesmerizing blend of power and aggression. He had never witnessed such a display, had never imagined that such creatures could be capable of such intricate movements. It was a spectacle both terrifying and beautiful, a reminder of the raw power that existed in this prehistoric world, a power that both dwarfed and humbled him. Dole, her movements fluid and graceful, met the male's advances with a mixture of shyness and defiance. She lowered her head, rubbing it against his flank, her low rumbles a rumbling counterpoint to his deeper roars. The male, his initial aggression tempered by her response, responded in kind, nuzzling her neck, his massive head dwarfing hers. As the night wore on, the two Tyrannosaurus rex continued their courtship, their roars echoing through the jungle, a symphony of sound that spoke of an ancient ritual, a dance of dominance and submission, of attraction and acceptance. Dasa, his initial fear giving way to a grudging respect, watched as Dole, her massive form a reassuring presence, settled down for the night, her head resting protectively close to where he and his family slept. He knew that as long as she was there, they were safe, protected by a creature whose loyalty and ferocity knew no bounds. He closed his eyes, the warmth of the fire and the sound of Dole's steady breathing lulling him into a restless sleep. The jungle, with all its dangers and wonders, held them in its embrace, and for now, at least, they were safe. The first light of dawn filtering through the dense canopy painted the lake and its surrounding jungle in hues of soft gold and emerald green. The air, still heavy with the scent of night-blooming jasmine and damp earth, carried a stillness, a sense of anticipation, as if the jungle itself were holding its breath, waiting for the day's symphony to begin. Dasa, his sleep disturbed by the weight of responsibility and the lingering echoes of dinosaur roars, stirred beside the banked embers of the fire. He rose carefully, his movements slow and deliberate so as not to disturb Maya and the children who were still sleeping soundly, their faces serene in the soft light. He ran a hand through his tangled hair, his gaze drawn to where Dole lay, her massive form a reassuring presence near the remnants of their makeshift camp. The male Tyrannosaurus rex, its presence still evident in the flattened undergrowth and the lingering scent of musk, had retreated into the jungle, leaving Dole to guard her adopted family. Dole's eyes, those ancient reptilian orbs that had witnessed millennia of life and death, flickered open as she sensed his gaze. She let out a low rumble, a sound that resonated deep within Dasa's chest, a primal acknowledgement of his presence and a silent reassurance that she was watching, always watching. He moved towards the lake, drawn by the promise of cool water and a moment of solitude before the demands of the day began. A fine mist clinging to the surface of the water like a gossamer veil obscured the far shore, creating an ethereal atmosphere that seemed to blur the boundaries between the real and the imagined. He knelt by the water's edge, cupping his hands to drink deeply, the cool liquid soothing his parched throat. As he drank, he heard a rustling in the undergrowth behind him, a sound distinct from the normally symphony of the jungle, a sound that spoke of something large moving with purpose. He turned, his hand instinctively reaching for the bone-handled knife at his side, his senses on high alert. Through the swirling mist, he saw the male Tyrannosaurus rex emerge from the trees, its massive head lowered, its eyes fixed on Dole, who had risen to her feet, her tail thrashing, her low rumble, a challenge that echoed across the water. The male, its intentions clear, was not deterred by Dole's display of aggression. It continued to advance, its massive body parting the mist like a ship cutting through waves, its footsteps shaking the ground with each thunderstep. Dole, sensing the imminent threat, let out a deafening roar, a sound that seemed to split the air, a sound that sent a flock of startled birds screeching into the sky. Dasa, his heart pounding in his chest, felt a surge of adrenaline, the primal instinct to fight or flee warring within him. He knew that he was no match for the raw power of the two Tyrannosaurus Rex, yet the thought of abandoning Dole, of leaving his family unprotected, was unthinkable. He gripped his knife tighter, his gaze darting between the two massive creatures, his mind racing for a solution, a way to intervene without becoming collateral damage in their prehistoric battle. Dole, her maternal instincts overriding any fear, charged forward, her massive head lowered, her jaws snapping shut with enough force to crush bones. The male, caught off guard by her ferocity, reared back, its own roar cut short as sus tetas, grazed its snout, drawing blood that splattered onto the ferns like crimson paint. The air filled with the sounds of their battle, the deafening roar of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the sickening thud of flesh against flesh, the snapping of jaws, and the crashing of trees as the two behemoths slammed into each other with bone-jarring force. Dole, her movements a blur of scaled muscle and primal fury, fought with the ferocity of a mother protecting her young. She dodged the male's snapping jaws, her own teeth finding perches on his flanks, leaving deep, ragged wounds that oozed blood. The male, its initial aggression waning in the face of her relentless assault, stumbled backward, its roars turning into bellows of pain and frustration. Finally, sensing defeat, the male turned and fled, disappearing into the mist-shrouded jungle, leaving a trail of blood and trampled vegetation in its wake. Dole, her sides heaving, her chest slick with blood, let out a triumphant roar, a sound that echoed through the trees, a sound that proclaimed her as the victor, the protector of her adopted family. The mist, as if mirroring the receding tension, began to dissipate, revealing the extent of the battle. Broken branches littered the ground and the air hung heavy with the coppery scent of blood. Dole, her massive head held high, her gaze sweeping the surrounding jungle, stood guard over her family, a symbol of unwavering loyalty and primal strength. Dasa, his heart still pounding, watched as she approached. Her rumble, a low, reassuring sound that spoke of safety, of a bond forged in the crucible of danger, a bond that transcended the boundaries of species. He reached out a hand, his fingers brushing against her rough scales, a gesture of gratitude and respect for the creature who had risked her life to protect his family. Days turned into weeks, each sunrise a testament to their resilience, each sunset a victory against the relentless challenges of their prehistoric odyssey. The jungle, once a labyrinth of unknown dangers, was slowly revealing its secrets to them. Dasa, his hunting skills honed by necessity, was able to track and bring down small game, their flesh providing much-needed sustenance. Maya, her knowledge of edible plants expanding with each passing day, gathered roots, berries, and fruits. Their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the muted greens of the forest floor. Dole, their constant guardian, their protector against the unseen dangers that lurked in the undergrowth, had settled into a routine, her maternal instincts extending beyond the immediate needs of Dasa and Maya's children. to encompass the small family unit as a whole. She was their shield against the predators, their guide through the dense undergrowth, their anchor in a world that was as beautiful as it was brutal. The children, their laughter echoing through the ancient trees, were thriving in this wild, untamed environment. They had adapted to the rhythm of the jungle, their senses attuned to the subtle changes in light, sound, and scent that signaled the approach of danger or the promise of food. They played amongst the giant ferns, their tiny hands reaching out to touch the delicate petals of exotic flowers, their laughter a testament to the enduring power of innocence and wonder. They were making their way through a particularly dense section of the jungle, the air thick with the scent of decaying vegetation and the musk of unseen animals. Giant trees, their trunks wider than Dole was tall, formed a natural cathedral overhead, their branches intertwining to create a canopy so thick that only slivers of sunlight managed to penetrate the gloom. The air hung heavy and still, devoid of the usual symphony of bird calls and rustling leaves, a silence that pressed down on the Casidem daily like a physical weight. Dasa, his senses on high alert, felt a prickle of unease. He had learned to trust his instincts, honed by generations of hunters who had relied on their wits and their senses to survive in this unforgiving environment. He motioned for Maya and the children to stay close to Dole, his hand resting reassuringly on the hilt of his bone-handled knife, his eyes scanning the undergrowth for any sign of movement, any hint of the danger he could sense lurking beneath the surface of the forest's deceitful calm. As if in answer to his unspoken fears, two shapes detached themselves from the shadows, their movements fluid and predatory, their eyes gleaming with a cold, reptilian intelligence that sent a shiver down Dasa's spine. They were raptors, their sleek, feathered bodies built for speed and agility, their sickle-shaped claws glinting in the dim light. Dasa's blood ran cold. He had heard tales of these creatures from the village elders, tales whispered around flickering firelight, tales that spoke of their cunning, their ferocity, their pack mentality that made them a formidable enemy even for a hunter as skilled as himself. He knew that he stood little chance against them, not with Maya and the children to protect. The raptors fanned out, flanking them, their movements so swift and silent that they seemed to glide through the undergrowth, their bodies blending seamlessly with the shadows, their eyes never leaving their intended prey. Dasa felt a surge of protectiveness, a primal urge to shield his family from the danger he knew was about to be unleashed. One of the raptors, its eyes fixed on Maya, who cried out in alarm, lunged its jaws open wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. The other, its gaze fixed on the child clinging to Maya's back, mirrored its companion's movements, its body a coiled spring ready to unleash its deadly potential. In that moment, as if sensing their fear, their vulnerability, Dole reacted with a speed that belied her massive size. She roared, a sound that shook the very foundations of the jungle, a sound that reverberated through the air, a sound that spoke of primal fury and unwavering protection. Her massive body, a seemingly impenetrable wall of scales and muscle, slammed into the raptors, sending them sprawling across the jungle floor. They hissed and screeched, their bodies twisting in midair as they attempted to regain their footing, their eyes burning with a mixture of surprise and now renewed aggression. Dole, her tail thrashing, her jaws snapping shut with bone-crushing force, stood guard over her adopted family, her massive form a shield against the relentless assault. The raptors, their initial attack thwarted, regrouped, circling Dole, their movements wary now, respectful of the raw power she possessed, yet unwilling to relinquish their intended prey. They darted in and out, their claws raking at her flanks, their teeth snapping at her legs, seeking an opening, a moment of weakness they could exploit. Dasa, his heart pounding in his chest, knew that he couldn't stand by and watch as Dole fought their battle for them. He had to do something, anything, to even the odds, to give Dole a fighting chance. He grabbed his spear, his grip tightening on the smooth wood, his gaze darting between the raptors, searching for an opportunity to strike. One of the raptors, emboldened by its success in drawing blood from Dole's flank, lunged again, its jaws wide open, its eyes gleaming with predatory hunger. Dole, distracted by the second raptor that harried her from behind, didn't see the attack coming. Dasa, his instincts taking over, reacted on pure adrenaline. The seasons shifted, the jungle's palette transforming from lush emerald green to fiery hues of orange, gold, and crimson. The air, once heavy with the scent of blooming orchids and damp earth, grew drier, carrying the whispers of distant storms and the promise of cooler days. Dasa, Maya, and their children, now walking with the confidence of seasoned nomads, continued their journey, their bond strengthened by shared dangers and the unwavering protection of their reptilian guardian. Dole, her massive form casting a long shadow across the sun-dappled forest floor, seemed more subdued, her movements less agile, her thunderous roars replaced by low rumbles that resonated deep within the chests of those who walked beside her. Dasa, attuned to the subtle changes in her behavior, sensed that something was different, a shift in her demeanor that spoke of a primal instinct taking hold. He had noticed her increased appetite, the way she lingered near clearings where the sun warmed the earth, her massive body shielding them from the cooling winds that heralded the approach of the dry season. He had seen the way she gently nudged the children with her snout, her amber eyes, usually fierce and alert, softening with an emotion he couldn't quite place. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long dancing shadows through the trees, Dole stopped abruptly, her massive body trembling slightly. She let out a low whine, a sound so uncharacteristic of the normally stoic creature that it sent a shiver down Dasa's spine. He exchanged a worried glance with Maya, who held their youngest child close, her eyes wide with concern. Dole lumbered towards a cluster of giant ferns, their fronds rustling softly in the breeze, and began to clear the ground with her massive legs, creating a shallow depression in the soft earth. Dasa, his curiosity piqued, cautiously approached, his hand resting on the bone handle of his knife, ready for any danger that might arise. As he drew closer, he noticed two large oval-shaped objects lying on the ground beside Dole. They were eggs, their shells mottled shades of brown and green, their surface warm to the touch. Dole, her massive head resting on the ground, her eyes closed, seemed oblivious to their presence, her body racked by tremors that shook the ground beneath her. Dasa, his heart pounding in his chest, realized what was happening. Dole was laying eggs. The miracle of life unfolding before their eyes filled them with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Dasa had heard tales of dinosaurs laying eggs, tales passed down through generations of his people, tales that spoke of new life emerging from the earth itself, a testament to the enduring power of nature. But he had never witnessed such a thing firsthand, had never imagined that he would be present for such a primal, awe-inspiring event. For days they watched over Dole as she tended to her nest, her massive body, a protective barrier against any predator foolish enough to venture too close. The children, their initial fear replaced by fascination, would sit quietly nearby, their eyes wide with wonder as they observed the subtle changes in the eggs, the way they seemed to tremble slightly as if pulsing with the life growing within. Then one morning, as the first rays of dawn pierced through the dense canopy, one of the eggs cracked open, revealing a tiny Tyrannosaurus rex, its eyes still closed, its body wet and shaking, its miniature claws scrabbling at the remnants of its shell. Dole, alerted by the sound, lowered her massive head, her tongue gently nudging the hatchling, her low rumble, a sound of pure maternal love. A second egg hatched soon after, revealing another miniature replica of its mother, its cries echoing through the stillness of the jungle, a symphony of new life that filled them with hope. The joy that had filled their small clearing, a fragile bubble in the heart of the prehistoric world, was shattered by a silence so profound, so at odds with the miracle they had just witnessed, that it seemed to suck the very air from their lungs. Dole, her massive body trembling with a mother's exhaustion, nudged the remaining egg with her snout, her low rumble a questioning sound that echoed their own unspoken fears. The two hatchlings, oblivious to the tension that had gripped their human companions, stumbled around their mother's massive legs, their tiny claws scrabbling at the rough scales, their high-pitched squeaks a stark contrast to the silence that emanated from the unhatched egg. Dasa and Maya, their gazes locked on the final egg, held their breath, their hearts pounding in their chests, hoping against hope for a miracle. But the egg, once so full of promise, remained stubbornly silent, its mottled shell cold and lifeless beneath the warmth of the sun's rays. Dole, her instincts telling her what her mind refused to accept, let out a mournful roar, a sound that seemed to rip through the very fabric of the jungle, a sound that spoke of a grief so profound, so primal that it resonated deep within the souls of those who heard it. Maya, her own heart aching with a mother's empathy, couldn't bear to watch Dole's heart break. She knew instinctively that she had to do something, anything, to ease the pain that radiated from the grieving creature. She approached cautiously, her movements slow and deliberate, her gaze fixed on Dole's amber eyes, those ancient windows to a soul more complex than they could have ever imagined. As she drew closer, she saw a flicker of understanding in Dole's eyes, a recognition of the shared bond of motherhood that transcended the boundaries of species. Dole lowered her massive head slightly, allowing Maya access to the nest, her low rumble a sound of acquiescence, of trust in the human who had shared her journey, her dangers, her triumphs. Maya reached out a hand, her fingers gently tracing the intricate patterns on the unhatched egg's shell. It was cold beneath her touch. The life that had once pulsed within, now seemingly extinguished, leaving behind a hollow shell, a stark reminder of the fragility of existence in this prehistoric world. And then, a miracle, beneath her touch, a warmth spread, a faint tremor, a heartbeat, faint but undeniable. The egg, as if awakened from a deep slumber, shifted slightly, a tiny crack appearing on its surface, a sliver of light piercing the darkness within. Dole, sensing the change, let out a soft rumble, a sound that was both questioning and hopeful, a sound that spoke of a mother's love that refused to be denied. The crack widened, revealing a glimpse of movement, a tiny claw, a flash of scales, and then with a final push, the egg shattered, revealing a third hatchling, smaller than its siblings, weaker, its scales duller, its movements hesitant, but it was alive. Dole lowered her massive head, her tongue gently cleaning the hatchling, her low rumble, a symphony of relief, of joy, of a mother's love that knew no bounds. The two older hatchlings, sensing a new presence in their nest, approached cautiously, their tiny heads bobbing with curiosity, their squeaks a welcoming chorus to their newest sibling. Dasa and Maya, their hearts overflowing with emotion, watched as Dole tended to her offspring, their own children clinging to their legs, their eyes wide with wonder and excitement. They had witnessed a miracle, a testament to the enduring power of life, a reminder that even in the harshest of environments, hope could bloom in the most unexpected of places. As the sun rose higher in the sky, painting the jungle in hues of gold and emerald green, they knew that their journey was far from over. Danger still lurked in the shadows. Challenges awaited them at every turn, but they faced the unknown with a renewed sense of hope, their hearts filled with the knowledge that they were not alone. They had each other, they had Dole, and they had the promise of a new generation, a legacy that would endure long after their own footprints had faded from the sands of time.